Hello and welcome to episode 28 of Daryl Show Your Work. And in this scenario-based lab, we are recovering from a malware infection. So the basis of this video today will be displaying what steps can we take to recover from an incident. All right. So basically what we have going on here, we had an attacker enter into our system, and in order for them to be able to conduct lateral movement through our enterprise, they turned off a bunch of our security features, and we were able to stop them. We were able to get them out of our system, but now we have to undo a bit of the damage that they did and turn back on some of these features. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to open up PowerShell as administrator, because we're going to need administrative privileges to do some of the things we want to do here. So I'm going to right click PowerShell here, and I'm going to run as administrator. All right, then I'm going to make this a little bigger just so everyone can see exactly, follow along and see exactly what I'm doing here. I'm going to increase our font. All right, should be a good enough size. All right. All right, so first we're going to start from the PowerShell command line here. And so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove looks like the attacker, they added a registry key to disable our real-time monitoring system here within Windows Defender. So anyone that doesn't know what your registry is, think of it in terms of like the central nervous system of your computer system. All right, so these are like the high level things that are the high level commands or the high level settings that are configured into your computer. And part of that is one that interacts with our operating system as far as Windows Defenders, and for it to do what it's supposed to do by default, is monitor for real time threats. And so that's been disabled. So we're going to go in and we're going to write a command in here for us to get rid of that registry key. All right, so we're going to first say remove dash item property and space dash path. Then we're going to put double quotes and then HKLM. Anytime you see something that begins with HKLM, that is very much indicative of a registry key. All right, so this is the registry key that we're telling it to get rid of now. All right, so colon and then backslash and then software. All right, then we're gonna say policies, because essentially that's what this is. /. All right, then Microsoft. Windows Defender. This is because this is the app that it's affecting, which is a critical app in our operating system. It's our native malware detection tool that's built into the operating system. Real-time protection. In double quote, we say dash name disable gotta make this all one word, real time monitoring. All right, and dash ErrorAction Ignore. Okay. All right. So to kind of walk us, so I'm checking my syntax here. I'm just going to walk us through what we have going on. So I'm telling it to remove where this path of the registry of our registry key that this is the part of the registry key that's being affected, and that's the Windows Defender real-time protection. This is where it's located within our system, and I'm telling it to get rid of the key that's been amended to it that says disable real-time monitoring, and I'm telling it in the basic is saying that this ignore action helps us to basically remove this policy from here. So basically, while it's not necessarily we're going to turn it back on after this, but it's getting rid of this policy, and it's probably going to be turned. It's still going to be turned off after we do this. So I'm hit enter. Let's see, try that again. Sorry, my system's a little slow today. Okay, let's see. There we go. Okay. Not sure why it took so many taps of my enter key. Okay. All right. So that's going to remove that registry that alteration to our registry key. That's going to remove that. Now we have to actually turn it back on. So in order to turn the real-time monitoring back on, we say set dash capital M lowercase p and then uppercase P in preference. All right, and then space, then dash, a capital D, and disable, and capital R, real time, capital M, and monitoring. All right, and then we're going to set that to false. All right, so let me fix that. So basically, I'm telling it where before where it was set to disable real-time monitoring, we're going to set that to false. So that's what's going to turn the real-time monitoring back on. All right. So we got rid of we got rid of the registry key, and then now we're saying to set this to false, and it's going to actually turn the real-time monitoring back on for us. All right. So the next thing I want to do is our IPS system has been turned off. So for those that don't know what IPS stands for, that's our Intrusion Protection System, and that's basically it goes a step further than what an IDS does, who's an intrusion detection system, where it not only detects threats, but it also does things as far as isolation, as far as different sort of activities to block certain threats from coming into our enterprise. That's what an IPS does, intrusion prevention system. And so it gives us, not only gives us alarms, but it also um, again takes preventive actions, as far as that can be isolating the endpoint off of the network, that could be blocking an intruder from accessing certain things, whatever settings we have programmed for that IPS to do. Once it discovers a threat, that's what it does. So this has been turned off by our intruder, which we have gotten rid of, but we need to turn it back on. So I'm going to go back in my memory here, and I'm going to do some slight alteration here. And the only thing I'm really going to change on this command line is the it's a specific feature that we're setting the disablement to false. So this time we're going to set our this disable intrusion prevention rule to false. So intrusion prevention system. All right. So again, this is going to turn back on our intrusion prevention system. All right, by setting this disable um, um, amendment to false. So I'm going to hit enter. All right. The next thing we need to do is we need to turn on our ability now to send Microsoft any reports concerning threats to help improve the malware database. So in case that this is something where it's something new that was found in the wild, or something that was actually exploited in the wild for the first time, or maybe even a 0 day something, or if it was a known threat but it behaved slightly differently. This is information that we need to send to Microsoft for them to be able to update their database about known threats, to be able to help other people in the case of similar types of attacks. So again, going back in my history here. All right, so I'm going to modify this in order to we're going to do some slightly different syntax on this one. So this one wasn't sent to disable, but this is something that we're going to actually going to enable um, for the first time here. So we're going to say dash MAPS reporting, and we're going to set it to 2. All right, so this is going to enable the feature that allows us to send reports related to this compromise and to the malware to Microsoft. Okay, let's see. Parameter cannot be found. Oh, because like always, my keyboard dragged the letters here. All right, so let's change that. All right, we should be good to go. All right, so the next thing is now we also have the ability to send Microsoft samples of any malware that we may have contained, or we may be trying to to reverse engineer. So we could send those samples to Microsoft for their own analysis. And again, for them to be able to do their own research and on the behaviors and the signatures of said malware, for them to be able to then update, push out any updates for the operating systems with those signatures or those known behaviors, for them to then add in, and for it to be more, for those malware signatures or behaviors to be more easily detected upon a future update. All right, so I'm going to go back into my history, so we're not writing everything from scratch. All right, and then I'm going to replace this with submit samples, and I'm saying consent, so because I'm consenting that we're going to send them samples or whatever we have. All right, and I'm gonna hit enter, and that's going to allow us to send malware samples for Microsoft to then research themselves. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is it's going to take us off the command line, because I can't really do this from the command line, and we're going to turn back on tamper protection, and this prevents malicious modifications to our settings. All right, so I'm going to type in Windows security. All right, see it's right here. All right, and so now that we have this up, the next thing we need to go to is virus and threat protection settings. So I'm gonna scroll down to that. Oh, I'm sorry, it's up here. Uh, see, I'm here, yes. All right, let's go scroll up. All right, so now that I'm here, I'm gonna scroll down here to the settings, and I'm going to manage settings. Hold on, got away from me. Scroll up a little more here. All right, I'm going to manage settings. All right, so you can see where everything that we did from the command line, it's been enabled here. So you can see that. So we're just going to go further down to a portion of this menu that we couldn't be able to access through the command line. That's the tamper protection. Okay. And pardon the delay of my lab here. All right. So I'm going to toggle this to on. All right, then I'm gonna hit yes. I want to make that change. And again, so what that does is it's basically going to prevent any sort of malicious modifications to our Windows settings. All right. All right. So I'm going to minimize that. So the next thing we want to do is we want to enable our firewall. We want to enable the firewall for all the network profiles to enforce security policies and block unwanted traffic. All right. So we're going to write a slightly different rule set here in order to turn that on. And I'm going to keep setting here, but we're going to tell it net firewall profile. space, then dash, then profile again. All right, then we want to tell it the breadth of what it is we want that to cover. We're going to say domain, comma, public, comma, private, oops, dash, enabled, and we're going to set that to true. All right, so again, what this does, this is going to enable the firewall for all network profiles to enforce security policies and block unwanted traffic. All right, so it's going to set that we're going to turn that firewall on. All right, looks like that went through good. All right, so then the next thing we're going to do, we're going to scan for or try to detect any files that may have been corrupted by the malware infection and allow some automated repairing of those files to be done. So in order to get that started, we're going to say SF. Sure, what's wrong with this? Okay, there we go. Okay, SFC. All right, slash scan now. Okay, let's go back. Okay. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I'm not sure why my system is so slow today. Okay. All right. So again, by running this, it's going to scan and try to detect any files that have been corrupted by the malware infection, and attempt to repair those. So I'm gonna hit enter. All right. So that's going to take some time to run. So while we're waiting on that, I'm going to pull this from the PowerShell command line again, and we're going to go into the control panel. And because we have a virtual instance, we won't necessarily be able to complete this portion, but I can walk us through. So what you would do next, you would try to find a backup of the last known a backup, which you should run regularly, and we would try to recover our system to and our data to the last known good state. So you have something called RTO and the RPO. RTO is the amount of time that we have to bring the basically to bring everything back up to where we had it before we start to lose money or it affects our bottom line. And RPO is the recovery. That's the recovery time objective, and then the recovery point objective is to what's an acceptable point that we can bring our data back or our information or our system back up to a working state. So this is assuming that our backup, the last backup that we had is, let's say we do incremental backups, and the last good backup was from, let's say, last night. Okay, so how we would go about recovering our system back to that point is we would go to control panel. So I'm gonna type that in here inside this search. I search bar at the bottom. I'm gonna click on control panel. All right, so then I'm gonna go to where it says system and security. I will go to backup and restore. All right, so as you can see, we don't have any sort of backups on any sort of restore points, but this is where that would typically be located, and we would then select our restore point and just follow the directions as they're given to us, and it will bring up a calendar of basically backups that cover different dates or different times within the dates, and we would choose which backup that we would want to recover our systems back to that. But unfortunately, I'm unable to show that in this video because we're using a virtual instance, and that tends to work best with a actual physical instance of our operating system. All right, and as you can see, our scanner for those corrupted files is still going. We're almost at 50% here. All right, so then the next thing we want to do is we also want to, pretending like we went through the process of recovering our system, recovering the backup, we want to apply any updates that may be out there, or any known patches or updates that we may have not um, um, downloaded into our operating system. So in order to do that, I'm gonna go to check for updates here. And as you can see, we're not up to date. So let's click check for updates. And then also, if we move down a little bit while we're just kind of waiting for that to populate, if we were to turn this on, we could set this to basically to automatically download updates and get those updates going for us automatically, instead of us having to keep coming in here manually updating our system for those security updates and patches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to minimize, well, don't want to minimize my whole lab. Sorry about that. Let's see, just want to minimize this window here. Check on the status of our uh, file scan. I made it really small. All right, let's go back to our PowerShell session. That doesn't look like that was it. Let's see what happened to our PowerShell session. Okay, there we are. Okay, we're at 88%. Okay. All right, so going back here to our update, just to see where we are. It's still looking for updates. So we'll give this a moment, but this is basically the gist of things. And I mean, ideally, once it finds the updates, we would want to begin installing those. So while we're waiting on these two things to kind of complete and do its thing, we can also let's go back to control panels. And what we can do is we can start looking for the programs within the programs and features um, application, and see if there's any sort of outdated, unused, or suspicious applications that way we need to remove, just to minimize our attack vector here, and to ensure that we're not opening ourselves up to another attack, or there isn't anything within our system that an attacker could still utilize or gain a further foothold into our system. All right. So I'm going to go to programs here. All right, I'm going to go to programs and features. All right, so it's basically pulling up all the software applications that I have, software and system applications that I have installed into this system. And as we're going through here, you can see my hypervisor here that I'm using to run the lab. Okay, we have our basic applications, our Edge, our Google Chrome, OneDrive. So nothing, I mean, our Microsoft Visual Studio, paint. So these are pretty standard applications. So fortunately, it looks like, in our scenario, our incident response team did a pretty good job at cleaning things up and sanitizing at least this portion of the network. And there's nothing really here that to be concerned about. But this is just a step that you want to take just to make sure that there's nothing left here. That again, anything that the attacker may have left to remain persistent in the system or to be able to come back at any point, any type of applications that would lead to a backdoor, or any sort of old applications that we're not using, or anything out of date that an attacker could use to exploit a specific vulnerability for that to get back into our system, or to even to execute code remotely. All right, so everything looks good here. All right, looks like we're still stuck on 88% and we're still looking for updates. But and anyway, I'm not going to take us through the whole thing of this thing trying to get past 88 and just trying to look for every update that is missing. So I mean, the point is that once this finds all the updates and everything that it's looking for, eventually we will have to install those updates and restart our system and for those updates to apply. And depending on how far out of date we are, that could take up to a couple of minutes, maybe even to a few hours, depending on how out of date we are in our scenario. Um, I mean, this is pretty much the basics of how we would recover our system from an intrusion or from a malware infection. So please like, subscribe, and share, and most importantly, show your work. And until next time, take care of yourself and God bless.